Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Shift, When the Shift Hits the Fan. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here with my co-host, Linda Lehman. And tonight we're going to be talking about the destructive power of can't. Now, can't affects us in a lot of different ways. We're going to talk about it in a couple of different ways, too, this evening. But we wanted to really tackle this because most of the time when people fail at something or don't get started in something, it's because of the fear of I can't. We talk a lot about fears here. I just started thinking about this the other day when I was watching a young fellow that had to mow this piece of grass. Now, it was a big piece of grass, about a block long and about a half a block on a steep incline. And the first day I saw him just standing there with this little lawnmower. And I'm sure he was wondering, like, there's no way that this lawnmower can do this. I can't get this job done with this lawnmower. And over the course of the next 4 days, I watched him mow this lawn. He was going up and down and sideways and all different ways trying to tackle this job. And I did have an opportunity to talk to him after the fact because I had to see how he felt about this. And he was very philosophical about it and how he, looked at it and I thought I've got to find a way to do this. There's a way. And it was his dad that really, he wanted to quit. I can't do this. His dad said, yeah, there's a way to do everything. You just have to find that way. And so that was his adventure that week, going diagonally and straight and across and up and down, trying to see what would happen. He was very satisfied with the fact that he did this, that at first he thought it was impossible to do. There was no way. And that he actually accomplished it. He was feeling very good about himself. And he thought back, too. I asked him, how many times in your life, have you not been able to do something because you thought it was impossible, you couldn't? He goes, lots of times. And as a youngster, we did, right? It's funny how that we started off with no can'ts when we were little. We could do anything. And then can'ts got into us from other people. And then we started can'ting a lot more, until we were adults, and we're really can'ting all over the place now. And it's ruining our lives. It's making our lives miserable for us. And we're not accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. We don't do the things that we want to do because we think we can't. And that's just an excuse for a lot of different things. And I know when you hear that, you just get mad, don't you? Well, no, it's not an excuse. I can't do it. It's too hard. Right? Or I can't stay in this marriage. It's just driving me bonkers. I can't. But there's no positive in can't. There's only negative in can't. There's only darkness in can't. So we have to make some shifts, and that's what we're all about here, is making shifts in our lives, doing things differently so the darkness and non-achieving and not being happy, we can make those things go away. And we can understand that there's different ways that we can work with what we have right now. Like that kid on that first day. It was an impossible thing. And I'm telling you, I could imagine it because it looked like a hayfield. And had it been me, I would have been looking for a swather. But all he had was one little lawnmower, and he got the job done. And I know that every time we do things like that, things that we look at and we're going, I just can't see my way through this, but we take that first step. We just take that first step and we get in it. And then we go, okay, I'm a little braver now. Nobody jumped out of the woodwork. Nothing killed me. And you take the next step and you move through that and you go, wow, look at me go. Look at me go. And so the next time an obstacle comes up, you're a little braver, and you're able to do that and go through. But then one time you fail. One time you fail. And what happens? You go running all the way back to I can't again. All of those things that you worked in between then and now, all of those accomplishments that you made, all the cool stuff that you did, gone. Boom. Poof. Just like that. Why is that? Why does that happen to you? And why do you let it happen? Well, today we're going to talk about that. And I know my co-host, Linda, she's got something to say about that too. So Linda, what say you?
Oh, good evening, Mark. Gosh, we could go in so many directions with this. Can't is such a dangerous word, and I remember growing up, I would be whiny about doing something, and I would do the I can't do it, and my dad would always tell me, Linda, can't never did anything. And of course that kind of irritated me as a kid. But when I sat down and I started thinking about it and, tried that one more time and I accomplished it, Dad was right. As long as we tell ourselves that we can't do it, it can't be done, then, we're right. But if we step back and say, okay, well, let me give it one more heave-ho, and then all of a sudden, you're right, we realize, wow, I can do this. I can accomplish this. And you know what, Mark, realistically can't is, and I think you mentioned it, is an excuse that we tell ourselves. And that excuse comes from old conditioning. It might be something that happened when we were 5 years old. And we gave in. We tried and tried. We gave in. We couldn't do something. We couldn't accomplish something. Maybe we couldn't quite climb to the top of the counter to get into that cookie jar. And so we've actually allowed that particular incident to shape our adult lives. And it was something that just happened when we were 5. And sometimes, even though we don't like what's going on around us, we hit that edge of our comfort zone, that area where it makes us afraid, that terror barrier. And you're right. No matter what successes we've had, sometimes we go running back to that place we call our comfort zone. I call it bondage, because until we break free and push through that, we're never going to accomplish the great goals and dreams that we have set out for ourselves, even if it's it looks at the moment like it's unsurmountable. We have been gifted with amazing power, amazing energy inside of us that we can create, and we can do just about anything that we set our mind to, as long as we keep persevering and pushing forward. It's like that guy with his little lawnmower that you were talking about. I can imagine that looked like a totally insurmountable task that he was given. And I'm sure he wanted to give up. He wanted to just throw his hands up in the air and say, forget this, it can't be done. But he had the encouragement of his dad, saying it can be done, just work through it. And as long as the kid was sitting inside of the problem, he couldn't figure it out. But when he stepped outside of that problem and said, okay, how can it be done? And then he started doing it. And then, he made some success, and so then he started doing it a little bit more. And I think you said it took him 4 days, but he got it accomplished. And it sounds like, Mark, that you had a conversation with the lad after he had completed this wonderful task, right?
Mhm. I certainly did. And he was, like, again, he was an amazing person in himself, but so many things in his life he had not done. He had not tried, and that was it. He said, I just don't try because it looks like I can't. And it's funny too, because I have to flesh this out a little bit more, because the conversation went on for quite a while, and I don't want to talk about just him, because I want to talk about our listeners. But interestingly enough, he's a small little boy, for his age, because he was 17. And he was just the type of guy that you knew didn't go out for the sports and the different things because he thought he was too little, or he wasn't strong enough. And he has good support with his dad. But he didn't do a lot of things in his life because he thought he couldn't. And this one little patch of grass changed his life, totally changed his life, because he's going to, I'm going to go do some stuff now. And he was talking about the different things that he can do now, or felt that he could at least try to do. He would actually make the attempt, where before that moment in time, 17 years, he thought, I've wasted, because there were so many things I wanted to do, but I didn't think it was possible. And even though other people told me he said, for one thing, he actually just said, I don't even know why that I really wanted to conquer this field. You know, at this point in time, I don't know why, because, you know, I felt like stomping off. I'm mad. I don't want to do it. But this one time I pushed the lawnmower. And, yeah, it took him 4 days. But how this has changed his entire life, I'm going to be interested in knowing what this boy accomplishes in his life from a hayfield.
Mhm. Exactly. You know, you've hit on a very important point, Mark, and I am very, very hopeful that the 17-year-old boy hangs on to this hayfield lesson that he has just learned and uses that to motivate him and push him forward instead of falling back on the many times that he gave up because, you know, he felt like he couldn't for one reason or another. Kind of goes back to something that Wayne Dyer wrote in his book, Excuses Be Gone, which, by the way, is an amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lesson. It's lessons for all of us. And as you were talking, I was thinking about some of the things that Wayne wrote in this book. He gave us a list of like 18 of the most commonly used excuses, and these excuses are coming from the I can't. You know, anytime you say I can't, and you say I can't do this because I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny. Everything you put behind it, because that's an excuse. You know, it's just like I'll just pick a couple of them. One of the ones that this kid could have used. You know, I can't do it because I'm not strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we can tag that and say, okay, well, I have something to combat that, and that is I have access to unlimited assistance. My strength comes from my connection to my source of being. You see, Mark, we really are unlimited beings, and we can pull on a source. I mean, it was probably that source that was pushing this kid to go ahead and tackle this hayfield when he could have stomped off. There was something inside urging him forward. There's something inside all of us urging all of us forward. And when we open ourselves up to that and we respond to it, we find that we can accomplish what appears on the surface to be impossible.
And sure, you know what? And he could have ignored that nudging. And it would have changed the trajectory of his life once again because that would have been a failure. Interesting.
It would have been. You know, another one I like, I can't do it because I don't deserve it.
Ooh. So many people feel that way. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and Wayne has something very strong to say about this. Tell yourself, I am a divine creation, a piece of God, therefore I cannot be undeserving. You know, you don't have an urge or a desire to be something, accomplish something, or do something without you already having the resources, the ability, the talent, the capability to actually do it. You just have to believe in yourself, right, Mark?
Well, right, but I think that's really hard for people, though, too, Linda. You know, it's always I wish, right? I wish. Mm-hmm. I wish I could be as pretty as that girl. I wish I could be as skinny as that girl. And it's really funny because as we were going through, you know, different things and different scenarios, it's funny how taking this in just a little drift to the right here, it's funny how can't comes up in different ways too and stops our start, because we were talking about this. And there's something I was reading just recently about can't and don't. And it's funny because we talked about this a couple of shows ago about being sick, and I say, oh, I don't get the flu. Well, there's a difference between I can't get the flu because I've got too much work to do, and I don't get the flu. Another better example for people might be I can't eat chocolate cake because I'm on a diet, compared to I don't eat chocolate cake, I just simply don't want it. This shift in your mind that's going to happen with that, and that's just like we're saying, like I don't deserve this, or what don't you not deserve, right? just subtle shifts that we make in languaging and what we believe. And it was funny because we were sitting at the table one time, and everybody was on some kind of diet, with the vegetarian and the I only eat grass, and everybody was on this little diet thing, and I'm going, can I have a poached egg on toast, please? And so somebody said, what kind of a diet are you on? I said, I'm eating an egg with toast because I want to. I don't know what you people are doing. So it was just such a, going, I said, you're not eating because you can't. I'm eating because I can. So it's just it just struck me in that moment. I'm going, well, you're all on a diet. No, you're just eating different food. If you had a different perspective, maybe you'd like what you're eating. It was just kind of, things strike me funny on stuff like that.
That is funny. And you know what, Mark, too, looking at the perspective of things, I was also reading something over the weekend, and I've heard it before, I've read it before, and we can allow our mind to tell us all kinds of stories. And going back to the food, if you're eating food and you're looking at it from the standpoint of, you know what, this is really going to bring me enjoyment, and this is really going to be good for my body. My body is going to take what it needs out of it, and then it's going to get rid of the rest. And I'm going to enjoy this. And we look at it from a very positive, pleasurable experience that's good for you, instead of looking at that piece of chocolate cake and saying how bad it is for you. You'll find that these little, I guess, lapses that some people say that they have, and it's bad for them, they're going to find that if they just change their attitude about it, their perspective about it, it's not going to cause any damage at all. Now, when we make a gluttonous habit of things that we might cause some problems. But typically, if your attitude is and your goal is, I live in a healthy body, and you look at the food that you eat as something that you enjoy and something that's good for you, you're going to find some pretty big successes come down the pike for you from that point of view.
Yeah, it's interesting there, too, because some of the people that I know, and this isn't all of the people, and it's not to say that, I don't want to talk about diets or get into any of that, but there are some people I know that purportedly are on the healthiest diet known to mankind, but you look at them and they don't look healthy. Their skin is dull. They've lost way too much weight for their height. There's some people that are just like, for me, it's bordering on anorexic, and nobody's telling them that because they keep telling themselves, and this is a reverse of, they keep telling themselves, I'm healthy because all I do is juice. I don't eat any food anymore. I'm so healthy. But when you're looking at them, the outside world looks and says, I don't think so. So telling yourself something in some cases can be not beneficial for you as well. You can believe the wrong things, I think, sometimes.
Right. And, that's where we all have to step back and question, why do we believe this? Mm-hmm. Why do we believe that only juice is good for us? And when you really start questioning it and listening for the answers, another question that I like to ask once I've asked why do I believe this is this true? And the only way it can be true is if it's true 100% of the time. If one person over here can eat solid food and look and be and feel healthy, then you and your juice is not true. If
exactly.
You think the juice is the only way to be healthy. And the same goes for when we tell ourselves we can't do something. This relationship can't work, or I can't go after the job or the business that I truly want. Same concept. Why do I believe I can't? And then you're going to come up with an excuse. And then you're going to say, well, where did this excuse come from? And when you start looking back, you're going to find, again, it probably came from that time when you were 5 years old that you climbed up on the counter but you couldn't get to the cookie jar. And then again ask the question, well, is this excuse true 100% of the time? And if the answer is no, it's not true 100% of the time, then that excuse is untrue. And you can throw it out of your vocabulary once and for all and create the I can side of it, because everything has an equal opposite mark. So if you're looking at something that you believe first blush that it can't be done, it won't work for you, you can't do it, step back and say, oh, the universal law of opposites states that everything has an equal opposite. So if I think this can't be done, then there's a way that it can be done. And start looking for the way it can be done. Start looking outside of the problem and looking for the solution. And when you're looking for something, truly your intention is to look for how you can, Mark, you're going to find it.
Yeah, and Linda, when we were speaking earlier too, you brought up an exercise that happened with, was it a professor? I just can't remember.
Yeah.
It was a corporate deal, right?
Yeah, it was a corporate deal, and it was something that happened in your country. I can't say your neck of the woods because I really can't.
Oh yeah, it was in Barrie, yeah, the East Coast, yeah.
Yeah, in Barrie, Canada. And as a matter of fact, this particular story that I absolutely love and I use, and I know when we talk, you actually use too with your coaching clients and your seminars and workshops. It's called the 333 story, Mark. And what happened was there was a bad tornado that went through a very small town called Barrie up in Canada, and it just devastated the town. And a gentleman by the name of Bob Templeton, who was actually a vice president of a small handful of radio stations in that area, saw it, and he just thought, oh, no, surely there's something that we can do. And so he thought about it, and he had been studying. He'd gone to a seminar and learned about the law of polarity, or the law of opposites, where if something can't be done, then the opposite of that is something can be done. So he thought, there's got to be something. And so he pulled together his leadership team, his management team, and they all got into a room together, and he pulled them aside, and he had this big whiteboard up, and he drew a big T on the board. And then as he was doing that and everyone was getting settled in, he said, hey, did you guys hear about what happened to the town of Barrie? And everybody's going, yeah, that was awful, that was horrible. And he said, how would you like to do something about that to help them? And then, of course, everyone in the rooms went, oh, yeah, we would love to help the people of Barrie out. And so Bob said, well, I have an idea. And so above his T chart, he wrote 333 above it. And he says, this is my idea. I would like for us to come up with a way that we can raise $3 million in 3 hours, 3 days from today, to give to the town of Barrie. And then so everybody's saying, oh, Bob, we can't do that. And he said, I didn't ask you if we can do it or if we should do it. I asked you if you would like to do it, and you all said yes, right? And because everybody said yes, we did. And so on the T chart on the left-hand side, Bob wrote why we can't. And then on the right side, he wrote how we will. And then he did something very interesting, Mark. He put a big X underneath the side that said why we can't, and he wrote the word next. And so then Bob turned to his leadership team, and he said, okay, here's the deal. We are all going to stay in this room together, and we're going to figure out a way to raise $3 million to help the people of Barrie. And anytime that anybody comes up with a reason why we can't, as you can see, there's no space on this chart to write that reason. So I want everybody in the room to say next every time somebody says a reason that we can't. Got it? Everybody said got it. And so then somebody from the back of the room said, well, hey, Bob, we could have a radiothon and broadcast it all across Canada, and that way we can raise the money. And of course, Bob started to write this on the board, and somebody else in the room said, we can't have a radiothon all across Canada. We don't own all the radio stations, and you know how competitive the stations are. Nobody's going to help. And somebody in the back of the room, sure enough, hollered, next. And so he said, okay, anybody else have any ideas? And then somebody else said, well, we can get these 2 TV news anchor personalities to host the show. And of course, somebody else said, you can't get those TV people to host the show. They're on TV. They're not going to stoop as low as to go back on radio. Well, about that time, everybody else in the room hollered, next. And then the energy started flowing. They had a total shift of energy to think of ways that they could make this work instead of focusing on the negative energy of why they can't. And Mark, 3 days from that day, they broadcast a radiothon all across Canada. The other radio stations were more than happy to help because they were helping the town of Barrie, and those two TV announcers were more than happy to broadcast, and they raised that $3 million in a 3-hour radiothon. Now, isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. And, I find myself doing that, and, Linda, you probably do too. When I'm muddled up in something, it's kind of like the deep breath in and out going, and I say to myself, okay, next.
Yes.
I just simply, it's funny how often that I actually do that. And it's something that, interestingly, you teach other people to do, but how I find all those things I do in my own life. It's not like I just say this, like I have this perfect life and nothing ever goes wrong in it. So obviously I don't have to worry about anything. Every single day there's something falling over, falling apart, or not going the way that I want it to. But it is. I'll simply go, okay, whoa, next. And I'm off looking at a different perspective. And so everybody can do that. And you can sit down and you can write that on a piece of paper when you're challenged with something. That'd be easy to do, right?
That would be a piece of cake to do, and it works. And it works every time. The key, though, Mark, is to be aware that we're doing this, that we're about to catch ourselves in this I can't trap. Or this I'm totally immersed in this problem and there's no way out trap. To step back, be aware that this is happening, and make the effort to say next, and then look inside the solution instead of the problem.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I know that there's a lot of great energy when you have a lot of people going toward in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, Mark? You can do it just by yourself, too. It doesn't take a room full of people, because the minute you shift your focus to how you will get this done, how you will climb out of this issue, and focus on the result that you want, then you can do it by yourself as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, and we know this as human beings, when things don't go our way, we get frustrated, and we may even get angry, maybe even really angry, and we make some choices that aren't that great. And that's always, breathe through any situation. That deep breath that you take just steadies your core, and most people don't. You'll find that whenever you're in a situation, you have the shallow breathing, and you're catching yourself, and realistically, everything is shutting down. Your brain is not working at that point, so of course you're going to make irrational decisions at that time. And most of the time, it's not the good decision. You're going to take the bad path, and that's going to do more damage. So whenever you find yourself somewhere, anywhere, whether you're driving your car or walking down the street, or you can't find the beans that you want for the recipe tonight, and you find yourself taking that, just stop, drop your shoulders, take a big breath in, and just go, next.
Yeah, next. And then have a good giggle about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, people may think you're crazy, but you know what? It's all about you. In that moment, it's all about you, because you're the one that's going to spiral out of control. You're the one that's going to snap at a poor grocery person because the beans aren't in the place that they're supposed to be, and you can't find them, and you're in a hurry, and the kid is driving you crazy. All of these things are just going to come rumbling down like this big avalanche at you, when all it was just ask the guy where the beans are.
Exactly. It seems so easy.
It just seems so easy, doesn't it? And I hope that some of you are out there thinking of a situation where you did spiral out of control and can laugh at that now, thinking, man, if I would have just done this would have just been fine. And we can laugh at ourselves, and sometimes we're silly human beings. We do make the bad choices. But if you're stuck, stuck somewhere where you just simply can see no way out of, it's too dark for you to do that. We always say this at the end of every show. You need to get someone to help you. You need to reach out your hand. There's no cowardice in that. That is strength. That is honor. When you do that, that is realizing that me by myself, I just can't make it through it. When I was going through cancer, I didn't sit there by myself and do everything. I reached out. I was like an octopus. I had hands everywhere reaching out saying, help me, help me. I'm just one little person. I can't simply put this together. And so there's no shame in that. And we have coaching and we have mentoring, both Linda and I. You can register on our sites. We'll be there to help you. Call us, Facebook us, connect with us, and we will help you. We get testimonials and people writing into us every day now about situations where they didn't think they could face something, and they listened to a part of our show and said, you know what, I can. I'm stronger than this. I'm better than this. And what Linda said at the top of this, you bloody deserve this.
You absolutely do. And you're never alone. Just realize no matter what's going on in your life, you're never alone. You don't have to go through it by yourself. There's always somebody that you can reach out to. If you just open yourself up to do it and realize that no matter what's going on, the right people are going to show up that can really help you get through it.
Yeah, you put that signal up, your beacon. And Linda's exactly right. The right people will show up. Just make sure that you're open enough and perceptive enough to understand that. And it could be just that little nudge, that teeny-weeny little niggling in the back of your mind. Pay attention to it. Because sometimes we're so clouded and there's a cyclone going on inside of our heads that's all that can get in of the good. Just that little bit. That's all it can come from above, from around, from within. It's just that small. So when you see it, grab out and grab it, or reach out and grab it, because that may be the only thing that you ever get. And if you don't reach out and grab it, then nothing changes. Like the boy with the little mower. Imagine him in your mind when you come up against something that you just simply think is impossible. All he did was start the mower and pushed it once and saw the grass come down. It gave him hope that maybe the next step, the grass would still come down. And then when he got stuck, he turned the mower in a different way and pushed it a different way so he wasn't mowing over the old grass. And he took another step. You see, it wasn't easy. And again, took him 4 days. But he accomplished that. So it may not take an hour or a minute, a day or a week or a month to solve whatever situation you're in right now. But the reality remains. The reality, just like Linda said, what is the truth? That reality remains. There's always, always, always a way out. There's never a time where there is not a way through, around, or over. Linda, the last word is yours.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I would like to give our listeners a little exercise this week, and that is their I can't exercise. I would like for them to pay attention to all of the times throughout their day that they say, I can't, or it can't be done.
Good one.
Yeah. Write it down, and then I'd like for them to take a pause and say, okay, how can I? And just open up and see what happens. And Mark and I would love to hear from you. Just be diligent about this exercise. We'd love to hear your results because I think that you're going to be amazed.
Oh, I'm sure, because I know since we've been talking about this, there's a few times where I've opened my mouth going, I know what just about came out of there. I can't be there. Yeah, I can be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I would love to be there.
Yeah. So all of our listeners out there, once again, we want to say thank you so very much for dropping by, and we hope that someone out there has a little bit of inspiration and can go one step further than you did before, because that's all we're asking for here. And from Mark here in Canada, good night, Linda.
Good night, Mark.